Hey there, my name is Allie Virtue. I am a functional medicine nutritionist and owner of Parkside Nutrition, specializing in gut health and sustainable weight loss. And particularly today, we're going to talk about how to prevent overeating. All right, so let me be clear about what this is not. This is not a post to tell you to cut your calories, restrict, avoid all the fun foods, don't talk to your friends, just pay attention to what you're eating. That's not this. My goal for this video is to help you feel good while enjoying some quality time, watching some good football with your friends. You might have personal goals that are eat less sugar or eat more protein, more vegetables, less of other certain foods that you don't want yourself to indulge in. That's fine. Those are personal to you. But for me, I just don't want you to feel stuffed, stressed about what you're eating, guilty if you ate a certain thing, or if you feel like you ate too much of a certain thing. I want to relieve those pressures so you can fully enjoy these social events with your friends that happen to include a lot of food. All right, so the main points that we're going to be talking about today is number 1, eat mindfully. 2, change your focus. 3, serve yourself on a plate. Eat normal meals before and after. You don't need to over restrict or starve yourself afterwards. Hydrate, plan ahead if needed. There's caveats to that one. We'll talk about it. And be done. When you are done eating, be done. And we'll talk about some strategies on how to do that. Number 8, offer to bring something you enjoy eating or drinking. Number 9, don't make exercise a punishment, either before or after. All right, time to elaborate. Let's go. Eating mindfully. What does that mean? So overeating, binge eating requires us to check out or requires us to not be present and paying attention to what we're doing in the moment. So to prevent that, we need to be connected. We need to be present with what we are currently doing. This is a big part of my pre-diet approach. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, it is basically the fundamental level of our pyramid on how I work with clients. Many people know how to diet. They know how to cut calories. They know what food is made out of. They know what are low calorie foods versus higher calorie foods, etc. That's not, I don't think, what people need help with. I think people need help with learning how to physically eat in a different way that makes these changes more sustainable and something you can truly do for a really long time. So when you're eating, I want you to do it in a very conscious way. This is ideally not eating in front of screens, scrolling on your phone, things like that, things that are going to make you disconnect from the food that you're eating. So I know we're talking about Super Bowl tips, so I know there will be a screen involved. You're going to be watching the game most likely, but try your best to pay attention to what you're eating instead of just constantly grazing and looking at the screen and just like serving yourself like this. Look up, then look down at your food, take a couple bites, watch the game for a little bit, and then try to make that distinction so you are connected with how much you're eating, what you're eating, so you can also enjoy it as well. Throughout the meal or throughout the eating process, try to check in and see how hungry you are. If you are no longer hungry, try to put your plate away from you and then continue to focus on your friends or the game. Another tip is to focus on chewing. Chew your food really thoroughly. It's so easy to just take a bite and then swallow it after chewing it a whole 3 times. Try your best to really savor it, taste it, pay attention to what the food is like, and then eventually swallow it when it's almost liquid. This is going to slow down the eating process. It will give your brain a chance to catch up and realize, hey, I'm actually pretty full. We could probably stop eating a little sooner than what you may have thought. If you'd like to learn more about mindful eating, I have a whole mini course on my website, parksidenutrition.com. Go over to free resources and check that out there. Number 2, change your focus. So a lot of times in these events, whether it's a Super Bowl, whether it is holidays, festivities, anything like that, there's a lot of emphasis on the food and eating all the food and how much food can we eat and what special food is going to be there that I need to overindulge on, etc. So try your best to change our focus for these events to the people, to spending time with family, to catching up with friends, instead of just trying to overindulge or treat it as a cheat meal. It's not a cheat meal. This is just a holiday, an event that happens periodically that we need to learn how to do in a positive way so we don't have that classic urge to over-restrict or go on a diet after overindulging on one of these events. These events should be about making memories. They should be about the event itself. And hopefully if we can change our focus, the food can just fall to the background. If the goal is to make the best of the time you have together, then feeling good so you can make the most of that quality time with your people should also be a priority as well. This mindset shift really helps us align our actions with what is really important to us, both short-term and long-term. Number 3, serve yourself on a plate. Yes, this is portion control, but this is also how we manipulate habits. If we want to break a bad habit, we need to put barriers in front of it. If we want to adopt a good habit, then we need to make that habit easier. And this is the same thing just applied to food, grazing, snacking, whatever you want to call it. So this tip is pretty simple and it's a great way to not focus on restriction. We are merely adding a barrier to an action we need to learn to moderate, aka grazing or snacking excessively on food that's out. So at social things like this, my clients aren't necessarily counting calories or anything like that. They are practicing all of the action points we're talking about today. So if you can master your healthy habits and positive mindset at these types of occasions, you are much more likely to make habits like this truly stick. And any food that you want to enjoy, we need to put that on a plate. That's our little mini barrier. Why do we want to do this? Firstly, because you get a visual of all the food that's on your plate that you're eating. And this will also help you gauge the volume of food that you've eaten, and it will serve as evidence to your brain of like, oh, I've eaten a full plate of food. I might be satisfied by now, and I could probably put my plate away. Secondly, you create that barrier. It's a minor one, I get it, but it is a barrier. It is a time to pause and reflect like, oh, do I want another cookie? Well, I'd have to go get another plate. Maybe I'll have it later, and you can move on with your day. This is so helpful to work on breaking that habit of just grabbing food off the counter, off the table because it's there. We need a little bit of a barrier, a little moment to pause to just check if we really want to do that, or am I doing it just because it's an opportunity and because it's there? Number 4, eat normal meals before and after. I can't say this enough. Don't go into social situations feeling completely starved when there might be a lot of food that, what I like to call food with no breaks, might be there, which means it's just easy to overindulge in. Firstly, it's one event, and you don't need to starve yourself all day to make more room for calories or anything like that, especially if you know it's only going to make you overeat on the food that is there later. Don't sabotage yourself like that. Secondly, it can only help us out if we feel fueled, if we nourish our bodies with balanced meals running up to that event and after an event like this. Having meals before and after that will make us feel mentally and physically good will only help you out to make a good decision for what you are looking to get out of the situation. Whether that means enjoying some of the fun foods that we don't normally eat, you can do that without any guilt. This is so key in preventing the whole punishment mindset or self-sabotage following an event like this. The faster that you can get back on track, so to speak, or the faster you can move on with a healthy, positive mindset that doesn't have to overcome hurdles like this or bouts of guilt like this, the much more consistent results you're going to have long term. 5, hydration. Everything just goes better when you're hydrated. I think that's as simple as that. And this again is just to help you feel your best, period. Sometimes we think when we're hungry, we're thirsty. Yes, that can be true. And there are no real downsides to being properly hydrated. This again can help us regulate our snacking habits and prevent us consuming excess energy that usually comes in the form of liquid. Drinking our calories is just simply really easy to do, and it's really easy to do really quickly. So trying to be well hydrated every day, but especially on a day like this, is just helpful. Number 6, plan ahead. Little asterisk here, this is if needed. This is only relevant to some. If you are newer to making nutrition changes and want to get more serious about changing certain behaviors, then by all means, let's make a plan. Tell a close friend about what you want to do so they can support you and hold you accountable to those actions that you've stated that are really important to you. Okay, time for the caveat. I don't think that everybody needs this. I don't think that you should always have to plan ahead for things like this. I truly want this to become easy for you long term. And after you've mastered these types of skills of eating mindfully and avoiding distractions, I would love for these actions to just be second nature. You don't have to think about them anymore. But if I'm honest, stopping eating when you're no longer full or no longer hungry is hard if you haven't been doing it. So I eventually want it to not take a second thought, but it does take a lot of practice up front. So sometimes planning ahead with a friend and outlining which actions are most important to you can be really helpful. 7, be done when you're done. When you're done eating, you're done eating. There are a couple strategies to help you do this because I get it. It can be hard. I've definitely struggled with overeating myself in the past, and this takes practice. And so while you're practicing and while you're mastering these skills, here are a couple strategies that can help you do this. So number 1, brushing your teeth. Yes, I travel with a little travel toothpaste, a little travel toothbrush in my purse all the time. 1, because I like having clean teeth and I like brushing my teeth after a meal, whether I'm at home or whether I'm out and about. So yes, I bring this and I found it really helpful. So simple, when you're done, just brush your teeth after your meal. The next is put your plate away. Again, we can obviously grab things off the counter or take little pieces here and there, but if we are trying to serve ourselves when we're eating any type of food, it's really helpful if we put our plate away when we're done to help solidify the end of the meal. Another one is you can help put the food away. So if you're not hosting, or if you are hosting, you can say, hey, do you need any help putting this food away? Or maybe it's been sitting out for a while. Maybe you can move it to the kitchen or a less obvious place where it's just easy to grab and graze. Next one is chewing gum. It's not my favorite one. It's definitely helpful. I've definitely used it, especially when I was in the midst of struggling with overeating, like during meal prep and cooking. I would just kind of snack a lot. So I would chew gum simply because it was a simple barrier to put in place. But sometimes it can make you hungry simply because you are chewing constantly, and that can kind of signal digestion. So pros and cons to that one. It can be helpful. It might not be in your scenario, but I wanted to mention it just in case. And then the last one is simply to decide to be done and focus on the people. This might sound super simple and you're like, Allie, this is not that easy for me to do. I get that. But I think you do need to practice this skill as if it were a muscle you need to strengthen. When we decide to do something and we do it, we build that muscle and our determination, our discipline gets stronger. So I did want to mention that one because it's a superpower. Anytime we're talking about making these changes, and a lot of people say, oh, I need motivation, I need to have more discipline. I think this is how you do it. You say you're going to do something and you do it and you follow up with that. The more times you do that, the more evidence you have for following through on your actions. So you do need to work on this so it can get stronger over time. All right, number 8, offering to bring something you enjoy and feel really good eating or drinking. So if you don't know what the host is going to have, by all means, just bring something or ask to bring something. That way you can be confident that at least one thing is going to be there. That way you can be confident that at least one dish or side dish is going to be there that you really enjoy eating. You know it's good. If you have any allergies or food intolerances that you need to work around, you at least have one thing that is, quote, safe for you to eat. We'll do this a lot in our household because our house is gluten and dairy free. So if we go over to someone's house, usually if you're going over to their house, they like you. So you can have that conversation of, hey, what's on the menu? My husband has some dietary issues that he's trying to accommodate for. What are you planning to make? I like to position it that way. So I'm not telling them like, hey, you need to change your menu based on our preferences. I'm just asking what they're going to make. Usually I can say, oh, cool, you're grilling meat. So I'll just bring a side salad or something like that. Or maybe they're providing a side salad. So you can kind of scope out what they're going to make. And then you can bring something if you need to. But that way you feel prepared. You're not putting more burden on them to provide or cater to all of your dietary needs. So don't be shy about having that conversation. And lastly, don't make exercise a punishment. Some will make sure that they get a big workout in before all the festivities or the next day, or they'll fast for a really long time after. And I just don't think that's necessary. I think the more consistent you are, the more successful you're going to be. So the less extreme that we are, I think also the more successful you're going to be. So if we can be pretty consistent with our efforts, you're not going to have all of these ups and downs as far as the binge, restrict, the overexercise, the feeling too sore, can't go to the gym for days, etc. type cycle. And exercise needs to be a part of our day every day, regardless of how much you ate or if you feel bloated or whatever reason. Exercise has just got to be a part of our day, regardless. Whether you're overweight, underweight, doesn't really matter. Exercise is good for all of us in some form. We don't all have to do the same form of things, but we do need to move our body on a regular basis. So use exercise on a continual basis, not as a punishment. All right, team, I hope that was really helpful for you. I hope this sets you up for a fantastic Super Bowl weekend and a really enjoyable time with your friends and family. If you have any other questions, please let me know in the comments below. If you want me to cover any other topics or have any other nutrition related questions, go ahead and drop those in the comments below as well. But thank you so much for watching and make sure you subscribe for more.